Welcome to the ISO for Growth, the podcast where we strip away the jargon and help small business owners build better, stronger, and more scalable companies through the power of ISO standards. Let's get started. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Jen. How are you on?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Not too bad.
Good.
Bit of snow this morning when I woke up, but...
Do you know what? It's cold. It's how British talk about the weather. That's how we always start the conversations. But it's freezing. Sunny Stoke-on-Trent has not got the snowfall yet.
Oh, bless.
But in time.
Lucky you, though.
I know. Especially with my car, a two-wheel drive, we'll just be skating around.
Oh, my goodness.
So, you think they were four before, right? But no, not reality, Jen.
Oh, bless you. So welcome to the ISO for Growth podcast. I really appreciate your time this morning. And we're going to talk about lots of things regarding ISO. But I guess, first of all, I'd like you to just introduce yourself to our wonderful listeners.
Yeah.
We know you're Tom, but tell us about who you work for and what you bring.
Of course. No promise. Well, I mean, my name's Tom Wheat, and on paper's the key word, because if the girls in the office will differ. I run the UK and also Europe for Perry Johnson registrars, and it's still a funny running joke in the UK that people don't know PGR anymore, Perry Johnson registrars. Been going for 34 years. 34 years.
Wow, 34 years.
About 55,500 clients worldwide. And more importantly, they started in the UK in 2017.
Right.
And why is that important? I never thought, Jen, I'd come to the dark side of certification. Okay. It was never a plan. It was never written in the stars. And it was never part of me. School teacher asked me what to do when I'm And the reason for that is I've been a consultant for 10 to 12 years. I've been the other side of the fence in ISO in 9, 14, 45. I'm 27. And I just got to the point where I thought the standard out there wasn't up to par.
Yeah.
And we build these trust and rapport with clients. And clients, as I'm sure you know, answer that ready question, Jen. Where do I go for a certification?
Yes.
And I guess that's a nervous laugh just as much as mine. I used to say none of them really. They're not really good and they're all as bad as each other. So I went for a pint with Dad. And Dad said, what are you going to do about it, Tom? And I said, not a lot, Dad. And he said, shut up. So I thought, you know what? He's right. So I joined the dark side, and the dark side being certification.
Yes.
And I joined Perry at that time and found him in 2017 because ultimately the customer service was phenomenal. So that's the reason I joined the journey. And it started with me about 3.5, 4 years ago. The office was really in Milton Keynes and we moved to Stoke-on-Trent.
Right.
That was part of the deal to the north, shall we say. And more importantly, it's a case of now, we've double figures in the back end.
Excellent.
And we've got a high volume of transfers, high volume of new clients, and we're making a small tidal wave. And the reason for that ultimately is because of what we do. Customer service.
Yeah.
Respectable day rates, putting the customer first.
Yes. Yeah.
Having the best auditors.
Yeah.
And giving that overall package really. So on paper, I started with the UK. I've now got Europe. And we're moving forward. But I think the proudest thing that made me join this company at the start was the average client retention. It's 26 years.
Really?
26 years, yeah. So when we get clients, they don't go. And for me, that was the deciding factor in the case of, okay, then I can build trust and relationships like with yourself now, knowing in hand. It's not just me coming with a startup. It's nothing against startups, but it's a well-embedded body. And I suppose the reason it works is because it's not owned by an investment fund, which I'm sure you'll smile about. It's owned 100% by one man, and there's no board, there's no dividends, and it's one person making decisions.
That's amazing.
So it makes it work.
Yeah. I mean, we moved over to you because we've got ISO 9001 and we moved over to you. I think it was last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Yeah. So we're very happy with the service.
And it's amazing to hear. And that's what's key, because ultimately, if you're recommending to your clients, I think clients also ask, well, who are you with? And if you're not with the body you're sort of representing or any of them 3 or 4 that we do, then the questions are asked, right?
Yeah, that's very true. So, UCAS?
UCAS.
Yes.
We'll go there, Jen. Let's go there.
No.
Okay, we'll go there.
Let's face that. So,
you have a goal.
So one way, we predominantly work with small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses. And when we're talking about asking the client about implementing an ISO system, we do advocate for UCAS. We have to recognise that there's other bodies out there as well, but UCAS is the ones that we predominantly work with. So for a small business owner who's trying to get their head around taking the next step, so I want to get an ISO system, how would you explain the importance of having a UCAS certification as opposed to not having a UCAS one? Great
question. And I think regarding that is a lot of clients don't know the difference between accredited and unaccredited.
Yes.
So accredited is UCAS, as is many under the IAF. An unaccredited, quite simply, is a certificate that doesn't have the crown at the bottom. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? There's many organisations from SMEs up to enterprise who submit that to tender or supply chain management, and it gets rejected.
Yeah.
So why does it get rejected? We both know it's a case of is that they've been mandatory through that tender system that it has to be UCAS approved. Running jokes, myths in the industry, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Yeah. It's done with a crayon, so on and so forth. And what I always do is, and the question that always clients ask me is, well, do we need one? Don't we? Let's get back to the roots. And the roots is, check why you're doing it.
Yeah.
The second one I always ask people do as a case of is, and also say, which standards do we need? Do we need 9? Yes. Do we need 14, 25? Yeah. And my answer to any client is, go to your top 3 competitors, go onto the website, scroll to the bottom and see what they've got. Because I guarantee there's a seal on there. And if you haven't got them, you need to catch up or be in front. But back to your questions, a case of the importance. For me personally, we're a UCAS accredited body. We're also ANAB, we're also Japanese, we're also Italian, we're also Mexican. Mm-hmm. Every country has its own accreditation. But UCAS means to be the most respected across the world, I think ultimately because we wrote the standards, you're British. So for me, for a client who's an SME, specifically one of yours, and thinking, do we or don't we do it? Let's use another line that we use, buy cheap, buy twice. So is there a market where you don't need it? Yeah, but eventually you're going to be pushed towards where you do need it. Mm-hmm. So for me, rather than waste the time, waste the money, waste the effort, is because, we've got internal audits, management reviews, all these mandatory documents towards the standard. Yes. For me, go straight for UCAS. And the first thing that people come back with, what's the difference in cost? And for me, do a costing exercise. And people are very surprised if you use 9,001, for example, Jen, that it's cost neutral. Yeah. Therefore, it doesn't mean to hard hoard it. It doesn't mean a case of etc. But it gives the company more credibility. Yes. It puts them on a platform to move and grow. Yes. And for us, from our experience with all our clients, I don't know any company within a 3-year period, cycle period, that haven't doubled in size. Mm-hmm. So an answer to your question for me is talk to the consultant first, i.e. you. Mm-hmm. They will recommend, and always recommend UCAS first. And the reason for that is it saves money, it gives more credibility, and it springboards you into that tender, opens up opportunities.
Absolutely.
So that's my view.
The credibility is really important, isn't it? Massive. I mean, it's like when you've got that badge, it's really saying to the outside world, you can be trusted.
Totally. Because ultimately, it's a case of is with ISO is, the problem we've got within the industry at times is not just about cert. ISO is about continual improvement.
It is.
So once we get the certificate, we can have tea, medals, wine and Prosecco, but the day after, the journey actually starts. Yeah. Because what happens now is you've got to demonstrate continual improvement. It hasn't gone back in the top drawer and forgotten about. So the reason why ISO is so recognised internationally is because it's not a one-hit wonder. You don't just get a cert and it goes on the wall. Yes. The difference in where the muddy bit comes with an unaccredited cert is sometimes that the case. Yeah. And a week before they come back out, you tally things up and off you go. Whereas a UCAS accredited cert, it's about that continual improvement from the day you finished right up to the end. Yes. That's the difference.
And that's what I love about it, because of that continual improvement. It's not just like you quite rightly said, that certificate just sits in someone's drawer and then panic stations a week beforehand. Somebody's really thinking about it, really getting involved. Sure. And it's not just about the owner, it's the entire team having their individual responsibilities or collective responsibilities to be part of that journey.
And the thing for me, if I was to describe ISO to someone, because, it's like Matrix, all them letters that come down. And what is it? To me, I always use the analogy of a case of a school plan for a substitute teacher. What that means is it's a blueprint. And anyone in that organisation can pick it up. It doesn't matter if someone's off ill, whatever circumstance it is, and the business can still run.
That's right.
So once you change people's methodology behind what it is, because ISO is also associated with red tape, compliance, runaway. It's not about that. What it's about, a case of is giving credibility, structure to an organisation where everyone can sing off their same hymn sheet. That's what ISO is about.
It is, and what's the beauty about it as well? It's evolving with the industries. So, they really are thinking about how industries are being operated, how they are operated and moving with them. So, once upon a time, back in don't say the year, but it was a lot of red tape and it was a lot of, every single tiny little thing had to be checked and cross-checked. And it was a headache.
It was. And to be honest, Jen, you're dead right on that. And I think also the problem with that culture was the certification body side. Yeah. Because you had auditors who were coming out with a stick. Yes. And they were coming in to dig for non-conformities. Yes. We don't come out to do that. We come out to find conformity. So what that means is we come out to add value, opportunities of improvement to improve the system.
Yes.
Therefore, the culture from the cert body side, which reflected down to the clients, they come in, is they should be welcoming us people in rather than kicking them out.
You're absolutely right there, because, I remember probably coming back quite some time, and I was working with a small business, and they went through a really bad experience with the certification body before I joined working with them. And one of the members of the team became quite objective against us proceeding with the ISO, because for her experience was, well, the cert body comes out and they're just digging until they find something wrong with us. And I'm saying, it's not about that anymore. It's changed, it's evolved.
Sure.
And sadly, she stuck her heels in and she says, no, we're not doing it because this is what you're going to do to us. And I was like, no, we're not.
And Jen, it's such a shame because it's all about that continuing improvement. Unfortunately, and it's true, that's why I jumped to the dark side.
Yeah.
As we started is, people pay a lot of money. They expect value, they expect opportunities for improvement to tighten and improve the system. And the whole point of building trust and rapport with a client is so they don't lift the carpet and brush it under.
Right.
But more importantly, they come in and go, this is where we're at.
Yes.
And I think that's where, why we've sort of close started working together more in a case of sourcing the auditors who've got the right attitude to go out and to add value rather than dig for non-conformity.
And I love the fact that you're saying adding value, because it's not, you're quite right, it's not about just finding fault, it's about how can we help by adding value.
Yeah. And the problem with the word audit and the word assessment, we've been scarred from that school, right? There's no good words that come with audits or assessments in school and people go, oh. But the reality is that's unfortunately what it's called, and you've got to take that sting away in a case. It's not about that, because people on first rodeos in a case of first audits is anxiety provoking.
It is.
And when it's about to that opening meeting with auditors and the customer service before to get them there to pre-plan is go, breathe.
Yes.
And the reason breathe again is a case of it has to be called an assessment. You have to be obviously assessed against the standard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a case of is if you've been in an organisation 3-4 months, you don't expect to have everything in place apart from. That's why it's a 3-year search cycle. The 3-year search cycle is to show over that time that continual improvement.
Oh, this is like music to my ears. It really is, because the amount of times we have some of our clients, particularly the ones that we've started working with the very first time, panic stations. I've got to have no, you can't come in until I've got everything ready. No, just allow us in. Yeah. Allow us in. Let us just do the gap analysis and just start from there. But, it can be very frustrating.
It can. And it can as a case. And I think, honestly, hand on heart, I think me, Jen, I bat straight. And unfortunately, that's come from a culture, the certification body side.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of mentality of coming in and going, we're here. And we're not leaving till we find something. I think what's important to spread on this message as a case of is, I can only vouch for PGR.
Yes, of course.
Specifically as a case of is that is not the case. And I think, it's about building that trust, rapport, openness. And then, do you know what? Catapult forward. Because the minute they do that, what clients instantly do is they continually add standards. Yeah. And the reason they add standards is the tender supply chain needs more. And you know what? They go, it's not a chore anymore. It's not red tape. It's not compliance. We've got a great consultancy company. We've got PGR coming in.
Yeah, move forward. Yeah, that's excellent. That's really good. So you spend a lot of time working with businesses of all sizes. I'm sure. What is the biggest misconception small business owners have about the audit process provided by the cert? We've just touched on that a little bit, haven't we?
I think the main things here is a case of is we know these mandatory documents, okay?
Yeah.
And the most common question we have in our office above the door, Jen, in massive letters says last Friday. Okay?
Oh, nice.
And the reason it says last Friday is clients will ring and go, I need certification. We go, when by? They go, last Friday. Okay? So it's a running joke. So the most common question we get from clients is, well, when can you come in? Okay. Nice. And you might go to consultants when you come in. And I think we'll laugh together that there's many products and services and no names mentioned out there where you can be certified in a week, in 4 weeks, ISO in a box, you name it, it's all there. Yeah. Okay. And the sort of ground rule for us is a case of before we can come in, we have to have something called 3 months of evidence. What the heck does 3 months of evidence mean? Okay. The minute that you as a consultant or the client puts a date on a document, the clock starts. So if we use 9001, for example, it's the quality policy. The minute the date goes on, the clock starts. So for me, as a case of it, is one of the key perceptions is when can we start? How fast can we do it? Yeah. And the answer is it doesn't matter if it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. It's when it's right is the first thing. The next thing is where to start. Okay, clients always ask, where the heck do we start as SMEs? Because it's overwhelming. They don't know where they're going. And you mentioned it just earlier on before. What we recommend ultimately is a gap analysis. And the reason for a gap analysis, well, obviously we don't do this. This is your part in your craft, is get all the paperwork together, see where the gaps are, see what heavy lifting they need, and then move forward.
Yeah.
Next massive one is price. There's a massive myth with price.
Yeah.
And there's a massive myth with a case of how long do audits take. And there's also, I'm sure we'll smile about, that we'll have certification bodies that you've used in the past and the days are completely different.
Yes.
So where's the consistency? Where's the consistency? You know, if we talk about 9,001, 14,001, 45,001 specifically, we all work from a table called MD5. And MD5 dictates risk, number of people, number of locations. And what that means as a case of is audit length sometimes clients think are going to be huge, whereas they aren't. So what's the moral of them 3 points we just covered? I think the first thing is reach out.
Yeah.
And the reason to reach out is a case of, if it's a costing exercise for the board, if it's a case of we can achieve it, what's the cost is, by getting obviously your cost in the case of a certification side cost, it gives them a real example and platform to spring off and get. But the thing with SMEs, very much the case of it, is the majority haven't got in-house experience. What does that mean? With compliance, with ISO, internal auditors, so on and so forth. And I think what people eventually do, and I'm sure I'm keen to see your interest in this, is they bring people in like you, and eventually they upskill and you come out a little bit more, but you're always part of that, if that makes sense. We always recommend at PGR that internal audits should be carried out by external companies. Why? Marking your own homework. Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And it's your final sort of safety net before we come in to do that. So it doesn't matter if you've got the in-house experience or not. We always highly recommend to have a consultant in because one, the management review, the board will turn up.
Yes. Yeah, they will.
Rather than someone internally going, having a management review. Well, I've got a meeting, I've got a Teams, I've got a meeting for a meeting for a meeting. So it's a case of it brings everyone together.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a case of, is SME specifically is, it seems overwhelming. It seems a burden. It seems a cost. Therefore, all these SMEs that venture into the ISO arena eventually don't become SMEs anymore. They move and grow and grow and grow and grow because of credibility, more opportunities, supply chain, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the moral story for me is, and I get this a lot, because we are part of the Chambers of Commerce in Staffordshire. There's a lot of small companies in there from SMEs and they just go, I don't know where to start and what to do and what it needs. And for me, sit down with someone, sit down with you, Jen, and the team, scope it and have a look. And by have a look as a case of it all comes down to cost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Here's the costings, but more importantly, this is how we're going to achieve it.
Well, I guess the independent side of a consultant going in as well,
that was me,
and having fresh eyes on on their business. That's what I really want to try and emphasise to our listeners here, because you know when somebody is within the business themselves and they're going through processes and you know implementing whatever or just running the business, they can't often see the call them pitfalls or the little errors that may occur. And when consultants like us go in and we just go, oh, well, have you considered? And they go, oh, never thought about it like that.
Couldn't agree more, Jen. And the thing with that's the case, the internal audit is one of the most, I can guarantee when our auditors go in, the first thing they lift is the internal audit. Why did they start with the internal audit? They start with internal audit because it'll identify any gaps, what's been raised, what preventive and corrective actions are, and what the business has done about it. That also shows four, context of the organisation. 5, the leadership, who's dealt with this and where it's gone from. So when we talk about the internal audit document, importantly, from our side, from a third party perspective, it's really important because it really gives a flavour of what the organisation are doing, or more importantly, it's a tick box and they just run through. Whereas if you were going in with fresh eyes, for one, you learn more about the business because you're asking the questions. 2, the accountability of people who are assigned to that task, have they finished and closed it out? And the 3 I always laugh about, which is the main thing that we brief clients, is that the CEO is on the know. Because the amount of times we've gone to audits and they go 91102. I mean, you don't need to
what is that?
Exactly. And Jen, you don't need to sit there like mastermind or the standard inside out. Therefore, we know key subclause to the standard is leadership and management.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole point of that is, for me, we recommend that to every client. That's across the board. So we never take it away. Can they do it? Let's get this clear, Jen. Can they do internal audit themselves? Yes. Does the document mandatory state you have to have qualifications to do it? No. So on and so forth. But the point is, for consistency, professionalism, continual improvements and growth, we always recommend a consultant to come in to carry out the internal audit.
So just to round that up, start with a gap analysis. That's all we're saying. Yeah.
And for them who don't know what a gap analysis is, Jen, for in case you've got anyone who's listening, what that's about is it's a simple traffic light system, document system that goes from the standard from 4 to 10, what they currently have, where the gaps are, and more importantly, what documents or templates or procedures need to be added or how it pulls together. So for us, anyone who's thinking and listening now, don't know where to start, book in, get a gap analysis, review it, and there'll be two things. You'll review it and go, do you know what, we can do that. Or two will go, Christ, what's happened? We need help immediately for the heavy lifting. Or three, Jan, can you and your team come support us to do this, internals, so on and so forth. But for me, a lot of people have got it. The glue of ISO is bringing it together. Not in that drawer, not in that system, not in that SharePoint, not with Fred next door and Jane in the other room. It's about all coming to one central location so everyone can do it. And that's where the consultancies add that much value to bring that together, especially when we're integrating standards.
Oh my God, that's another podcast in itself, isn't it? We'll invite you back to discuss the integrating. So our podcast is obviously called ISO for Growth. From your perspective as a certification body, how have you seen a UCAS ISO standard transform a small business from just getting by to one that's really, flourished in the marketplace?
Totally. And I think we mentioned it really early on, is the key bit is if you're getting a certification, you've got to be UCAS. It has to be UCAS in regards to this market, because that opens up the tender, the opportunities, so on and so forth. But the majority of SMEs that we've worked with, I don't know of any, if none, where they haven't doubled in size after a 3-year period. Why? Is it ISO? Yes. Why is it ISO? Tender, supply chain, credibility, competitive edge, and more importantly, just opens up gateways that were never there before. And for people, as I said before at the start, is if you don't know regarding, unfortunately, our industry is driven by tenders. Okay, and by a tender says you must need this by this date. Proactive, reactive. Okay, the proactive SMEs, as a case was mentioned before, the ones who are actively looking at competitors, seeing what they're doing, seeing where they're going, and moving forward and getting ahead of the game before it happens. So for me, I can confidently hand on heart say, as a case of it is, will ISO be one of the best moves that clients make as an SME? 100%.
Because we occasionally, I should say, we'll get a prospect who says something along the lines of, but I don't need it.
It's a good, And you know what? Maybe they don't need it. And I think what's eye-opening now and a bit of homework for everyone on the group is the Procurement Act of 2023, which was released in 2025, Jen. But we won't go there because that's another different echo chamber we'll go down. And what the Procurement Act 2023 says, basically, when it's coming to tender now and supply chain, if you haven't got ISO, don't bother.
Wow.
And it also lists as a case of us whereby that if you have applied now, it's also mandatory for organisations to also reply why you didn't make the tender.
Really?
Now, in reality, is that going to work and happen? I think the answer is probably no. But at the same time, as why I'm sharing, the central government now, let's use a couple of swear words, one being Brexit and one being the European Union. When we come out of Brexit and the European Union sits in there, what happened was the credibility of some of our compliance documents fell to the floor. So people now talk about cyber essentials, safe contractors, and they've still got the credibility massively there. But what happens is when we go on this international market now, they aren't recognised because we're on our own. So ISO took this massive step up to go, okay, this is the international standard of what the compliance is across the world. This is where we need to be. So the Procurement Act now and central government are very, very much pushing now towards ISO. And the reason for ISO as a case of is it gives us that reputation and respect to do international trades, through the chambers of commerce, so on and so forth. So it's really raising its head. So back to your point that we don't need it, that might be the case. Therefore, I can guarantee in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, the market is massively changing. And I suppose it's same as anything. People always think that ISO is for tenders and submissions and winning business.
Or for the big corporate companies.
Let's forget that. And we come back to the lesson plan. What it's about is giving your organisation structure. So everyone in the workforce can work towards the same standard. So if we're making blue pens, every blue pen that comes off the line is blue and not green. So it's actually saving the money organisation, saving the money because they haven't got recalled products, so on and so forth, etc. But everyone says we don't need to do it, but because, the market unfortunately is heavily driven by compliance and tender, but it isn't. let's think of the credibility of what ISO does and what it does for an organisation.
Yeah.
That's what we should be looking towards.
Yes.
The bonus is it opens up more doors.
Yes. And every business wants to be credible, don't they? I mean, who doesn't? I mean, even though a business might be operating 10, 20, 30 years, they still, that's not necessarily saying they're credible. It's just that they've just managed to survive.
Agreed.
But, if you want to expand, and, we speak to lots of business owners, and not one ever says, oh, no, I don't want to expand. I just want to stay as tiny as I am. Everybody wants to grow.
Yeah.
And this is just a great opportunity to
and if you're opening locations in the UK, or you're going to go abroad, or you're going to international, so on and so forth, all that does is give you strength, so everyone's working. Keep saying from the same end sheet, so everyone's doing more. No one starts a business to stay as a one-person band, okay? No one. Therefore, at the same time, the more you scale, the bigger you grow. Unfortunately, your controls and procedures sometimes fall and slip.
That's right.
Because unfortunately, priorities are based elsewhere, and you're sort of chasing the projection curve. But in reality, if you don't keep the product or whatever your service you're offering to the standard that it was when you were one person, you have no business no more.
Absolutely.
So an ISO is about giving them goalposts, them gateways to work with towards. So more importantly, doesn't matter how big and how quick you grow. Doesn't matter how many countries and how many people. The product always remains the same, continually improves.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Support that growth. Because your structure, your foundation. I guess sometimes when we're explaining it, we talk about housing, not that we know anything about building a house, but certainly you've got to get your foundation right, haven't you? Unless the bricks that you place on the foundation will just fall down.
And again, don't forget your roots.
Don't forget your roots.
And the roots is normally it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people coming together in the room, creating something that's fantastic. And at the same time, as I said, scaling is great. All scale. Therefore, as we all know, what we talked about at the start, it's about customer service, product, how it is, satisfaction. Your supply chain, so on and so forth, they're only as good as your product.
And then when you talk about customer service there, when we talk about customer service, yes, it's about the paying customer, but actually internally in the business, the departments are customers of each other. And that's what ISO can help within internally as well, isn't it?
Because what happens in most organisations is you go in silos.
Yeah.
Everyone's in a silo. And you might talk at dinner, or you might talk on your Christmas night, do it once a year. Whereas what ISO forces you to do is go, oh, no. Take the silos out and all bring it centrally.
Yeah. Excellent. So you can have a slurp of your tea while I just...
Yorkshire tea, may I add?
Yorkshire tea.
Yes,
of course. Thank you for that. So walk us through a typical stage 1 and a stage 2 audit for small businesses. I know we touched on the fact that it's kind of like, oh my God, panic stations audit. But, for a small business, what are the auditors actually looking for? Is it more about finding faults, which we touched on already? It's not about finding faults. It's always about adding value. But what's the stage 1 and stage 2 like for a customer?
Totally. I get it. It's one of the most common questions. And stage 1 and stage 2 will always be in the first year you do of ISO, for clarity. And just to give a quick overall, it runs on a 3-year cycle. So year 1, we've got stage 1 and 2.
Yes.
Year 2, annual surveillance 1. And year 3, annual surveillance 2. So stage 1 and stage 2 is simple analysis. Stage 1 is really about see if you're ready. And it's a documentation review.
Yeah.
Okay. So by a documentation review is checking all your documents are in place. Once they're all in place, in theory, we recommend no more than 2-3 tweaks in between, really, to stage 2. Why do we do that? When you go for stage 1, your finger's on the pulse. The bigger the gap, something might spike in the industry. You might get really busy with customers, and guess what falls off the table? ISO. So we keep it tight. So stage 1, documentation review. We've talked it. Stage 2 is about, okay, then, show us how you walk it. So what that means is a case of is, okay, you've got your own internal procedures, how you operate, etc. Show us how that works. Show us how you communicate. Show us how you consult with your workers. Show us how you manage your supply chain, so on and so forth. So the key thing about that is with clients is they sort of get really anxious and go, oh, I don't know what it's about. And before we do a stage 1, we send an audit plan. And the audit plan is key because the audit plan will dictate from 9 till 5 exactly what we cover, where, what, and how. Once we get that, once we come to stage 2, not all about just checking documentation and procedures and policies, but it's also about talking to key people. Them key people might be the compliance manager. It might be the IT manager. It might be a case of the CEO, the CTO, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to use the word interviews, Jen, but what it's about is seeing their understanding of the standards, what it's about and how it works, because people hate that. Another key thing to mention about stage 1 and stage 2 is the organisation doesn't stop because we're coming in. Okay, we don't black out dates and go, PGR will come in, all the wheels have to stop. It's not about that. We bend and shake around what the organisation does. So to clarify, that's really simple. Clear audit plan before we come. Stage 1, all about preparedness, documentation review. Are you ready for stage 2? Know the more than 2 to 3 weeks in between, then come out and do stage 2. Audit plan, of course, before. Show us how you do it. Show us how you operate. Let's talk to some key people. Myth busting, Jen. This is important. At the end of stage 2, clients do not get the certificate.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Why do we mention that? Everyone's working towards a timeline. Everyone's working towards a deadline date, and no one factors in something called EC technical review at the end. What's that mean? It means an auditor who's not part of the audit checks all the documents, I's and T's, and goes, that file's good to go.
Yes.
Our policy at PGR and our KPI is 7 days after. We then get the cert out.
Yes.
When we send the cert out, it goes as a draft. Why does it go for a draft? Spelling mistakes, locations, scope, confirm everything, and then we send it out.
Yes.
I think what's also key is a case, as we mentioned about that certificate earlier on. We do send the certificates, but we also send all clients hard copy. We send engraved plaques for the wall. Why? If you've got an HQ or reception, you've worked hard for it, showboat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Really showboat it. But for me, stage 1, stage 2, the most important part. It really is the most important part.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's when your clock starts for your continual improvement.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Because, I mean, and when you go through your stage 1, your auditors are telling you at that point, actually, you're ready for your stage 2.
Yeah.
And if they felt it, you had no chance of passing in inverted commas a stage 2, they wouldn't say that, would they, to you? So,
Totally. And let's talk about non-conformities really quick. People always go, well, what if something gets found? At stage 1, we don't have non-conformities, we have something called concerns.
Yeah.
And a concern, for example, might be that, for example, the management review's not been completed.
Yeah.
What that means is they have to have it readily available at the start of stage 2. Otherwise, it turns into a major.
Yes.
So we've got minor non-conformities, we've got a major non-conformity.
Yeah.
God forbid they get raised at stage 2. What that's about to case of is okay, we found something we need to deal with it. So we have a 60-day to close that out to get it all sorted, then we can carry on.
Yeah.
Common question, can we fail an audit? I don't know of anyone who's failed an audit, Jen, but it's got to be, I suppose, not the only example I can give is not turning up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, everything gets documented, we learn from it, we adapt and we move.
That's right, yeah.
Another dead common question while we're on stage 1 and stage 2. Consultants helping and hosting for all clients on audits.
Yeah.
Is it allowed? Can we do it? Can't we? Of course it's allowed.
Yeah.
And the reason that consultants sometimes host and co-host with clients on stage 1 and stage 2 is because they've implemented the management system, they know it in depth, so on and so forth. What it doesn't mean that the organisation can hide in the back and talk to no one. But we also highly recommend that consultants like yourself, as a case of, is also assist clients in hosting audits. Takes the anxiety away.
Well, exactly.
Takes the stress away.
Exactly.
You know exactly where you are, what you're doing, and it gives them a great experience. And eventually, it catapults them forward.
That's right, absolutely. Because, in my experience, particularly in the early days, when an auditor came in and sometimes they'd see a consultant there and they'd be like, oh, God, because they felt as though we were just going to take over and not involve the business. But we're all about, actually, the business has to be involved. It's your management system.
Totally.
And yes, we're there just to guide you on that day and relieve those anxieties. Because doing something for the very first time is always nerve-wracking. I've never met anybody that. And we're just there to, you do know this, and we'll just give you that prompt word. Oh, yes, I remember now. And then they're carrying on with the conversation.
And the thing, going back to what you said there, Jen, back in the day, was the problem that auditors feared consultants sitting there was because they couldn't get away with me.
Yeah.
So they used to get challenged. And by challenged and go, okay, show me the stand where it says that. Whereas clients at times, through the knowledge, would just roll over and accept it. Whereas, again, that culture's massively changed again. It's still out there some places. That's a different story for a different time. But at the same time, that's what it's about.
It is.
So, but the old point of, let's use a wingman, wingwoman as a case of it, is they're there for support. So basically, not blag you through, but more importantly, act, do whatever else, move, bend, shape, and basically.
That's right, yeah.
Give a good experience. So,
a good experience, and that's what it is.
But stage 1, stage 2, absolute foundations of any ISO.
Yeah.
But in a simple, breaking it away, it's much more in-depth explanation as you can imagine. Stage 1, talk it. Stage 2, show us how you walk.
Sure, yeah. I like that. I might start adopting that.
Simple, Jen. People get it.
Okay. So, we've talked about continual improvement, which is what ISO is all about, isn't it? When we talk about that, when I think about it in more depth though, Tom, continual improvement, do I have to think about this great big thing that I've got to show you the next time you come and see me? Or can it just be a tiny little thing?
Great
do I have to like put a new IT system in, for example?
New IT, new Christmas tree, different you name it. It's a great question. And all the continual improvements all about is that you haven't put it in the top drawer and forgot about it. Now, 12 months, every 12 months, as we know, these mandatory documents, let's talk the two main ones. So internal audit and management review has to be done before we come back in. Okay. And in some organisations, they've had no preventive or corrective actions. They've had no regarding anything that they've had to raise to a corrective action log. And that is not an issue. What might have happened is employee count's gone up, procedures might have changed, policies might have changed, more products might have been added to the line. Might be a case of whereby there's even more locations now, more people in scope. So what it's about, a case of, is that as of today, and it's red, and then in 12 months' time, it's blue, because we have to come out on a 12-month rolling program. We have to assess a client, audit them on a 12-month rolling program. The annual surveillance 1 audit on year 2 is the most important. Okay. It has to be done within 12 months. Compulsory. And that comes from the back end of the standard that sits in the back. But an answer to your question is, most organisations, not much would have changed. What should have changed there was a new internal audit, a new management review, so on and so forth. Not change the date at the top, which will go for you. Change the date at the top, and that'll stay for this year as well. It doesn't wash, because, as you know, we normally keep an auditor on the same client with a 3-year rolling program. Consistency, just keep explaining the organisation. And he or she will definitely have the audit reports and evidence from last time, so it's not going to wash. So I think the main thing to point to answer is a case of is don't fear it. We're not expecting now a case of is this massive change, and sometimes no changes needed. All that's needed is a case of is that, there's an audit schedule, you've carried out the mandatory documents, you've carried out the management reviews, and you've kept on top of it.
And it's really thinking about what we can improve if necessary. So you don't need to be forced to improve something. No. It's just...
The thing is, Jen, not every company needs improvements. You could do one niche product and you're absolutely a connoisseur at it, and it's your thing, and that's what it's about. But unfortunately, what you can't do is just sit on their morals and go, we've got the best of the best. That's how it is. Because unfortunately, it's all about demonstrating your supply chain that you're constantly on the board. 9,000 specifically, all about the quality of product or service.
Absolutely. So the last area that I just want to touch on, please. Tom, then. So as we look ahead, we're seeing more focus on business impacting on the environment. That we talk about the environment and the impact business is having on it. How is the world of certification evolving to help small businesses to stay relevant in the market that cares more about ethics and sustainability?
Great question. I think we'll all smile in the streams. A case of it is one about global warming. Global warming come along there. And unfortunately, people were getting non-conformities against it. Because ultimately, the garage down the road with 3 people doesn't care about global warming. Maybe that's unfair. Never been on the horizon, should one add. And they picked up non-conformities. And the reason for this in the case of sustainability, the environment, all the rest of it with ISO is a case of, as you know, we talk about 14 specifically. Environment, 50, energy management, it's growing again, 50,001 is. And that's all to do with the enterprise. Because as we know with the ISOs, Jen, enterprise started blue chip and it comes down the filter lane and it comes down, and unfortunately these SMEs at the bottom and go, I just don't know why that applies to. But unfortunately, the whole philosophy of ISO doesn't matter if you've got 50,000 people or 5 people.
Exactly.
You're all working from the same script, and unfortunately you all have to work towards the same goal. And with the environment, a case of regarding 9 that sits within there, if we talk about the environment for 14,001, I can guarantee the majority of, you get 2 main questions where we have to ask in a case of, okay then, what's your main waste stream? You're smiling at me, Jen, right? By the way, general waste, so we all know. Let's go there. The black bin bag that sits in the kitchen. And the other one's a case of is obviously what's your main usage? And guess what? Utilities, your laptops and your lights. So for me, it's a case of is it's a real, not difficult one to explain, but it's sort of, how do we go about it? Every standard subclause 4 to 10, right? And it doesn't matter if it's 14 and it adds in a bit of cost. It's 45, adds a bit of risk assessments. And it's 27 and we add an SOA and activity controls. It all comes from the same blueprint. And I think for clients, you just need to be aware as a case of is that when we talk about the environment and, they might have bleach under the covers, just don't get overwhelmed with it. And I think the reason you don't get overwhelmed with it regarding sustainability and all the things that comes with it is ultimately it's coming back to you really, Jen. This is where your expertise in your team comes in and goes, stop.
Yes.
Because people do overthink it.
Over panic.
And it's sometimes a barrier and a gateway why people won't touch ISO, because all of a sudden they go, oh, we've never even considered that in our lives. Never mind it's a business. But just to bring that right back down to bricks, if we've got something that's got multiple data centers and we've got the scrapyard down the road and we've got so on and so forth, that's a different outlook.
It is.
But if we go back to the roots here of SMEs and someone round the corner case of us and being asked about this stuff, just pause.
Yes.
Don't get overwhelmed. Understand it. And by understand, it's a case of liaising with people like you to see where we are, where we're at. And when it comes to us, we also then reiterate and go, pause.
Yes. And we're all working together. That's the thing.
Jen, you've got to work together, because ultimately it's a case of is it's cliche, teamwork, dreamwork.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it's important is a case of, relationships between consultancy companies and all certification bodies is once you know each other work, and that's through systems, your systems, how you implement. Remember, every management system, this is key for people to know, is different because it's tailored to the organisation.
That's right.
But the roots, the subclause 4 to 10 is we know how you work, and more importantly, you know what we expect when we come in.
Yes.
Because unfortunately with consulting companies and certification bodies is they don't talk. And when they come in, they go, what's that?
Yes.
Can you print it me all off and do this? And they go, well, hold on a minute. It's counterproductive. Yeah. Whereas to take the anxiety away, stop them barriers of getting on the journey of ISO as a case of is once you've got a partnership, shall we call it, that's the way forward. Yeah. And through a partnership will solve sustainability, where it comes, where the overwhelmness, and just go, pause. Yeah. Let's break this down.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I really appreciate it. Pleasure. And yes, I hope you have a super day.
I will. It's great to see the team. Have a great week. Keep smiling. And hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, likewise.
Take care, Jen.
Thank you.
See you soon. Take care. Bye.
That's all from today's episode of ISO for Growth. Remember, ISO isn't designed to cause you stress. It's the foundation that allows you to grow your business. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button. I'll be forever grateful. I'm Jenny Kilburn, and I'll see you next week.